It didn't matter if Chris Sale started or not. The Braves weren't going to win game one. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Wednesday, October 2nd. Your home for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's Christian Rauh. Follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack. And Atlanta loses game one, 4-0. And in retrospect, I don't think it mattered if Chris Sale started or not, because the way that the Padres performed in that game, the way that Michael King had his coming out party in the postseason, the way that this whole thing went down, you weren't going to win if they scored a single run. And obviously they scored 4. And while you had to use more of the bullpen than you wanted, it worked out. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll talk about Max Fried tonight. Can he give Atlanta what they need to extend this to a game 3? But I want to talk about, you shouldn't feel bad about losing game 1. Now, there was things that were frustrating. Don't get me wrong. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. This has been a problem ever since you lost those 2 games to the Mets or you had those 2 games postponed to the Mets last week. You left 70 men on base. These have been problems for a good portion of the year, right? But Michael King was phenomenal. I don't think people realize how good he was. The stats are good enough already. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, no walks, to 12 strikeouts. But for Michael King, he is the first pitcher in MLB history to punch 12 tickets with no runs and no walks in his first postseason start. And I think that is, yes, obviously the Braves have something to do with that because they're the ones up there trying to hit these pitches. But Michael King is a very good pitcher who was on the top of his game in game 1, and Atlanta just could not hang.
No, they couldn't. And I'm with you about the Chris Sale thing. I'm more because of the offense. Just had one of those bad games, Lindsay. This is the Chris Sale Chicago White Sox start all over again. If you would have started there, I don't think the offense would have had anything going. But Michael King looked really good. I will say that, excuse me, I will say that he's lucky that scorecard hasn't come out on social media yet, because I do think that he got a little lucky on some of those pitches, especially in the lower part of the strike zone. But I don't want to take a lot away from him because he did look really good. 12 strikeouts. It was the second most in franchise history in a postseason start, behind Kevin Brown, who had 16. And it just was an incredible outing. He made these Braves batters look really bad. Struck out Ozzie Albies 3 times. Albies looked completely lost up there. I know it was a righty versus righty, but he looked completely lost up there. There was multiple times there was pitches right down the middle and he just stared at it. Ozuna, I think Ozuna is why I really want to look at the scorecard, because there was a couple times where Ozuna, I think, got struck out from some really low strikes. I think even though he struck out 3 times, I think some of those are the ones that were meh, like iffy ones, right? But regardless, 15 total strikeouts in this one for the Atlanta Braves, 12 of them going to Michael King. It was a rough outing for the Braves offense. I don't know if you want to consider this a hangover offense after the flight and everything, or if this was just a good performance for Michael King, a little bit of both. Regardless, we're down 0-1 now, heading into an elimination game, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a really tough road back. Since the playoffs have changed to this new format, no team has made it to the next round after losing game 1.
Yeah, and I think the frustrating thing about this game is, yes, Michael King looked good. He looked fantastic. And quick aside, real quick, Braves fans, I want you to watch. This is going to be something you're going to see a lot more of in the future. I love Michael King's been one of the best in baseball at doing this, but pitchers platooning their pitches. If you watch, he was like, the changeup was almost exclusively for left-handed batters. He had different pitches and different game plans. It was sinker breaking balls against righties, and then it was four seam fastballs and changeups against lefties. And this is something you'll see a lot more of going forward. This is the next wave in baseball. Spencer Schwellenbach does this to an extent. He only uses the splitter in certain handedness situations. Max Fried's capable of doing this. This is the new wave going forward. And StatCast actually now, when you look at a pitcher's breakdown from a game, they'll show you for the pitches they threw, the total distribution, but then they'll show you what they threw versus righties, what they threw versus lefties. And 7 of the 9 changeups that Michael King threw were against lefties. I think this is just something you'll see a lot of going forward. This is the next wave and really cool pitching nerd development kind of thing. Is we're going to give a guy 4 or 5 pitches, but he's going to break them into groups, and lefties get this look and righties get this look, and it just does different things. And then what helps with Michael King is they all look the same out of the hand. He's got a really good tunnel. He's throwing multiple fastballs. He's throwing multiple sliders because he has a sweeper and more of a gyro bullet slider. He's got a sinker and a four-seamer, so he's got multiple fastballs, multiple sliders. You'll see a lot of this going forward. The Braves are really good at pitching development. They'll start to give these guys some things like this. And Schwellenbach arguably is an example of a Brave who already does something like this. He throws 6-7 pitches. But the frustrating thing here is, to get back on topic real quick, sorry, is you would have signed up. If I told you before the game, you're going to have AJ Smith-Shawver, Aaron Bummer, Jesse Chavez, and Luke Jackson out of the pen, and they're going to give up 4 runs, you'd have signed up for that. You'd have said, yes, that is good enough where we have a chance to win. And Atlanta just wasn't able to do anything on offense. It's amazing how the bullpen did this, right? AJ Smith-Shawver did not have his velocity when he first gets in the game. Single to Luis Ariz, that happens. Dude's won 3 consecutive batting titles. Home run to Fernando Tatis Jr. was on a middle fastball at 93. You can't throw a 93-mile-an-hour fastball down the heart of the plate. It just doesn't work like that. He got up into 98, 99 later. By then, he had given up a couple runs already. They finally pulled him there in the second after the sac fly scored the 3rd run. After that, San Diego didn't get a hit until the 8th inning where Kyle Higashioka hit that home run. So, like, you really have to feel for we talked about the night shift in 2021. This was the 3rd shift, right? These back of the bullpen guys in Bummer and Chavez and Luke Jackson. But they did some great work. They covered 6 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, kept Atlanta in it, but Atlanta didn't have a hit for 4 innings in the middle of that as well. And it's just, this offense is the reason you lost. It's not AJ Smith-Shawver's fault. It's not the pitching's fault. It's the offense.
Yeah, Smith-Shawver obviously starting off with the home run to Tatis, which was an absolute moonshot, by the way, after a Luis Ariz single, which is surprise, happens all the time. That's not surprising. That's where that happened. Getting to a 2-0 lead right off the bat, it definitely sure took the air out of the sails of the Braves after what happened in the doubleheader yesterday. But
Wait.
excuse me.
Did it take the air out of the sails after they didn't have Chris Sale? Sorry.
Look at you. Look at you.
I'm a dad.
No,
I'm a
that
dad.
was good. That was good. I think I should applaud you for that one. You're right. It shouldn't be blamed on Smith-Shawver. I do think that the Braves put them in a really tough situation. I don't think we need to go into that, but I think it was a tough situation. Snit did say during the broadcast he was met by, I think Buster Olney talked to him, that he wanted 13 outs from Smith-Shawver. He only got 4. So right off the bat, they were already expecting some big expectations from him against a very tough San Diego offense. They were expecting him to get through the order and then some. 13 outs, that's a lot asking for a guy who's only gave you 1 start in the major leagues this year. In hindsight, and I know this is a lot easier to say, in looking at it afterwards, might have been smart to go to Aaron Bummer to start this game because of his lefty. Padres seem to struggle a little more against left-handed. Hopefully we see that tonight. But regardless, I do think that bullpen looked good. You didn't have to use a lot of your big-time bullpen pieces, which was mainly the point, was to just get through this game, hopefully try to fight your way into it. And Snit said it during the game. They weren't playing that bad, but they just needed to fight back, and they didn't. And that was a push towards the offense. The offense just really couldn't get anything going. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Your only extra base hit was a Travis d'Arnaud double, which that dude was cooking on the base pass, might I say. But yeah, you gotta get that offense rolling. One last thing about this bullpen, I noticed this and I thought this was a nice little nod. Did you notice Jesse Chavez before he took his first pitch, looking around, taking it
Taking it
all
all
in?
in. Yeah, I
Because it
think he
might have
knows.
been the last time that he's going to be on the mound. Yep. So I thought that was something that you had to definitely be called out on this show. And he pitched great.
Yeah, it was. If that was the last time we see Jesse Chavez in Atlanta, he rebounded from a tough second half of the year to redeem himself. Yeah, just the Braves didn't like they had the traditional bad luck on batted balls. They had 6 hard hit balls, got 1 extra base hit on it, out of 7 hits, but no runs. The Padres only had 5 hits, but they got 4 runs off of those. And Atlanta got the luck on this. 11 hard hit balls by the Padres, only 2 extra base hits. They were both homers, though. That was the issue there. And this was, I said it in the cold open here. It didn't matter if you threw Chris Sale in this game or not. Like, it didn't, you were not going to win this game with Michael King doing what he did and Atlanta's offense being as not unprepared, but struggling as much as they did. I do think there is something, we'll get into this after the break. I do think there is something about could you have opened with a lefty and what that might have been able to do. And we'll talk about that as far as the game plan for game 2 with Max Fried. But we talked yesterday about Atlanta needed to find a way to win game 1. And some of it was I was thinking about I'm pretty sure nobody's lost game 1 and gone on to advance since we started this format. I didn't have that exact. I hadn't checked it yet. I didn't want to say it on the show, but I was thinking that. But part of me was also thinking that was going to be the best. That was going to be the easiest of the 3 pitching matchups you could potentially have, right? Joe Musgrove's been really good down the stretch. Dylan Cease is Dylan Cease. I was thinking you could go out there and you can do it against Michael King. And I think I also underestimated how good Michael King is. And that's just something, honestly, I live on the East Coast. I don't get a chance to watch a ton of West Coast baseball. I don't believe he pitched. Yeah, he did not pitch against Atlanta this year, so I had not seen him. He got some relief innings for the Yankees against Atlanta last year. So that's it. And that's on us, too, for not telling you guys to be more aware and ready for Michael King. But judging from the reaction across the broadcast, the radio call, Twitter last night, I don't think anybody expected that out of Michael King. Again, he's the first pitcher in baseball history to strike out 12 with no walks and no runs in his first career postseason start. So kudos to Michael King. He earned it. They won it more than Atlanta lost it, but Atlanta did not take advantage of their opportunities to make it a game.
Yeah, Michael King, if you're just the one that really paid attention to East Coast baseball because of the time zone difference, is it fair to say he's the West Coast Reynaldo Lopez? He was a reliever for the Yankees, goes turn starter this year for the Padres, and absolutely shoves. That's what we're getting from Michael King this year. Now, Lopez's numbers are better overall, even though you wouldn't know that after watching last night's matchup with Michael King. But he's a really good pitcher, and he's going to be a free agent in 2026. And we might be talking when 2026 rolls around that he might be one of the top, if not the top pitcher in the free agent market. I think that we were rolling into a spot, and we talked about in the preview yesterday how they're trying to save Dylan Cease for game 3 and potential game 1 of the NLDS if they can sweep these Braves here. And that might happen. Who knows? We'll see what Maximus Fried can do in tonight's matchup. But if that's the case, and the Padres move on, which as of right now, if all numbers are correct, since they've won the first game, that's likely. We might be talking about the best rotation in baseball in these postseasons, and it's the San Diego Padres. I would never have expected that.
Yeah. To go along with already having the best bullpen. It's like, how much more do you need? In our defense on Michael King, career ERA of 3.20. So that's really good. 26 and 26 of his 146 career appearances. 49 of those are starts, and 30 of them were this season. His high in innings was 104 and 2/3 last year for the Yankees when he made 9 starts and 40 relief appearances. This is the first year that he's had double-digit starts. So it's not quite a full Reynaldo Lopez. He wasn't a starter that converted to the bullpen and then came back to a starter. He's always been a kind of a long man sort of guy. Even in 22 when he made no starts, 34 relief appearances, 51 innings. He was going multiple innings in a lot of those. But yeah, no, that's on all of us for maybe not realizing exactly how good Michael King was, and not going to make that mistake again. In just a minute, we'll talk about tonight's matchup, what Max Fried has to do, the lefty advantage here that he might have, and then what to know about Joe Musgrove. We'll make sure we cover that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby, Christian Rauh. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can find our written work, bravestoday.com. And then make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when we drop a new episode. And if you're on audio, leave us a 5-star review. It really does mean a ton to let our friends at Believe know that Braves Country is out here supporting their podcasts. So, Joe Musgrove versus Max Fried. We saw last week what Max Fried can be when he is pitching and knows that he has to come through and perform, because Fried's that guy. He doesn't care about the strikeouts, right? We've seen him be able to go and settle for soft contact, go deep into games. But last week, we saw him just rack up the punch outs because he went full Maximus Fried, and he says, we've got to do this. The thing that it is a little bit reassuring, there was a tweet yesterday from Mark Bowman, Braves beat writer for MLB.com, talking about, he said, a scout who followed the Padres for the last 3 weeks. I'm assuming it's a Braves advanced scout. He said, lefties will give the San Diego lineup fits, and Aaron Bummer is showing just how effective Sale and Mentor could have been in this series. To explain that, we told you yesterday that the Padres had the best batting average in baseball in the regular season, right? 264 was the best batting average in baseball. Off of righties, they hit 272. Off of lefties, they batted only 239. The strikeout rates were surprised. Like they struck out more against lefties than against righties. They hit for less power. The OPS is about 75 points lower versus lefties. Really nice, right about 690 versus a 765 against righties. And so you feel like Max Fried has the ability, because he can also platoon his stuff for against lefties and against righties. Max Fried has the ability to get you through, you would hope, 6 innings, give you a quality start, and Atlanta should be able to still be in it. What kind of confidence do you have about Max Fried in this game?
A lot of confidence. A lot of confidence in Max Fried. I think he'll be able to get the job done. My concerns are the offensive side, but when it comes to Max Fried, I think seeing him be able to throw a lefty, it could potentially be his last game as a Atlanta Brave, period. And I think that there's going to be a lot on the line, a lot of emotion. I think he's going to let it all out there. But yeah, a lot of confidence in him, knowing that the season is on the line. I would not expect anything less of Max Fried, and I would be shocked if we don't see at least 7 innings from him. That's how good I think he's going to shove tonight.
Last 5 starts Max Fried's made against the Padres. He's 3-1 with a 2.30 ERA. But the most recent one was May 17th in that series where Atlanta lost 3 out of the 4. He went only 4 1/3, 9 hits, 3 runs, all earned on 3 walks and 2 strikeouts. Now, I say that he was dominant in his last start against Kansas City, 8 2/3, 3 hits, 2 walks, no runs, 9 strikeouts. In his last 7 games started since late August, 4-3 with a 2.36 ERA. And of those losses, one of them was 3 runs against Philly in 7 innings. One of them was 3 runs against LA in 6 innings. The only outing that wasn't a quality start in that entire 7-game stretch was the loss in Washington, where he gave up 4 runs on 11 hits in 6 innings. Outside of that, he has 6 quality starts in his last 7 appearances. I feel like Max Fried can be successful, but like you said, I think it all comes down to the offense. And what worries me is it's really easy to underestimate Joe Musgrove because of his season stats. We haven't seen him since 22. He hasn't faced Atlanta since 2022. But on the year, he's 6-5 with a 3.88 ERA. But he came back from injury in August. He was out, I think it was an elbow issue. In the 9 starts since he came back, he's 3-1 with a 2.15 ERA. He struck out 57, and he's walked only 8 with only 4 home runs and 50 1/3 innings. So my concern in this game is Atlanta's offense. can this offense figure out how to put up runs against Michael King? I'm sorry,
Again,
against Joe Musgrove.
yeah, because they couldn't figure out how to do it against King yesterday. So now you got to worry about Musgrove. Hey, if you thought that the crowd was insane last night, wait for it to be today because
Yeah.
they're in a spot where they can clinch to go to the next round, and they have their hometown boy on the mound. Joe Musgrove's a San Diego native. And this will be his second career postseason start in Petco Park. His last time was against the Dodgers in 2022. When that happened, he had 6 innings pitched. He only allowed 2 runs, 8 strikeouts against that Dodgers 2022 Dodgers team. That offense was a lot better than what we saw last night from the Braves. So, there's a lot of things that in my mind are going against the Braves. If Max Fried can shove, if the offense can wake up, they can keep their season alive. But there's a lot of things that are not going in their direction at this moment. If they play like they play last night, this is going to be a very quick game. This game's going to be over very quick, and it's going to be time to say goodbye. And they're going to be getting on a plane, heading home, and cleaning out their lockers. But if they can wake up and this offense can take form and do what they've done in the past, we've seen it. I keep saying this, even with the injuries, this team has the performance to do so. If they can wake up, this is the perfect time to do it. You're heading into a spot now, Lindsay. If you have to play game 2 and game 3, both the starting pitchers are the only 2 pitchers in San Diego Padres history to throw no hitters. You're going into brand new territory now with these Padres guys. Getting the Musgrove would be huge, not only for forcing the next game of the series, but maybe quieten the crowd a little bit, taking down the hometown guy. There's a lot of little small intangibles in this that you could look at, but obviously the big main thing is you got to win if you want to keep your season alive.
Talking about the small intangibles, Ozzy Albies, 1 for 4 with a single and a stolen base yesterday from the number 2 hole, but he also strikes out 3 times. I know he homered and he doubled in that doubleheader on Monday. We talked about it possibly being the Ozzy Albies game if Atlanta came back to win that game, or if Atlanta held on to the win. But since he came back from the injured list, he is 8 for 42. Do you think Atlanta has run out the exact same lineup minus whatever catchers in there the last 10 games? Same batting order and everything. Do you think this is the game they consider moving Ozzy back like down the lineup a little bit and bump Soler to number 2? Or is this he's going to roll out there in the 2 spot and we've got to hope he just has it today against Joe Musgrove after he didn't have it against Michael King?
Do I think they should do it? Yes. Do I think they will? No. I think they're going to stick to their guns, and I think we're going to get the same lineup because that's just how Snit rolls. But I think they do. They should make a little change. Maybe just helps them light a fire under this Braves offense because that's exactly what they need. I would even go remotely as not even just moving Soler up, or maybe you do move Soler up, but I would contemplate on moving Laureano to that spot, flipping Laureano because I think he's been pretty good. Regardless, that's not going to happen. So I think we're just being wishful thinking here. But Ozzy looked lost yesterday. He really did against Michael King and all of his at bats. There was a couple right down the middle where he just let it go by him because he was just completely guessing. He was completely just not knowing what was coming at him. And I know that there's an issue with righty versus righty on him, and especially with the sinker. And some of those weren't not sinkers. You're getting sliders, you're getting sweepers, and he was just still having a tough time. A lot of issues for Ozzy Albies against Michael King yesterday. Hopefully he can figure it out against Joe Musgrove. But we're talking about another righty on the mound. So I'm not hopeful, but I hope then again we come back tomorrow morning and I'm talking about how we need to build a statue for Ozzy Albies once again. So hopefully he can rebound because I have a pretty good feeling, Lindsay, that we're going to see him in the 2 spot tonight.
Yep. Win or lose, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Braves Today. Hopefully, we're discussing what Atlanta has to do in Game 3 to be the first team to advance and move on in a 3-game wildcard series since the format was instituted. But either way, we will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, do us a favor if you're listening on audio, leave us a 5-star review. If you're listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Either way, tell your friends they can go out and get some cool updates and pitching nerd stuff from the Braves Today podcast. And then also, as always, go check out our written work at bravestoday.com. Until next time, this has been Braves.